this MSG is empty. It is having nothing to show. Now what we do is, this property of child you can access here, MSG you can access here, and you can pass the data into it. That means the parent message into it. Now that message will come into the child component, and this will be displayed here. This will be displayed here. But important is the properties you declared inside the child component. The properties you declared inside the child component are not directly accessible in another component. Means in parent component, you cannot access this directly. If you are trying MSG, then immediately it shows an error saying that I cannot know, I am unable to know the property called MSG. There is no property MSG. That means only child component can know about it. Now what we have to do is, we have to mark this property in such a way so that it is accessible outside this component anywhere and can accept the input from any another component and use that input. That means it should accept input from global location, means from any another component. Usually this message is accepting input only within the child component, but it should accept input from another component also. In that case, we have to mark this property. We have to mark this property with @input. Clearly I will show you. @input is a directive. This @input directive will make this property global so that it is accessible outside this component, so that other components can input values into this property. So that means if you are designing a property to collect data, then we have to mark it as input. If you are designing a member to emit any result, then you have to mark it as output. We have two things, input and output. Input is used to accept the data. Output is used to emit the data, to send the data. Currently, this message is not sending data, it is accepting data. It is accepting data from parent. Then we have to use the directive input. By using input, we can manage that. By using input, we can manage that. Let's see how we can do that, how we can configure that. So here, what we are doing is, this message should be sent into child component. So in the child component, let's go to child component. In the child component, there must be some property to accept it. So then in child component, I am declaring a property and a public. So MSG, it is empty, nothing is there. This MSG we are displaying inside this child component. So MSG, that is currently empty, nothing is there. It is empty. You can put some message. Currently it is empty, there is nothing there. Now, this MSG is displayed here. In the parent component, we need to pass the message from parent. From parent, we have to pass message to child. in child there is a property called MSG. I am trying to access that property here by using property binding technique. In the square brace MSG, it is not available. Into that MSG, I need to pass parent message. But it is saying that MSG cannot bind to MSG because it isn't a known property of app child. That means we don't have a property of app child. That means this is not accepting any input. Now, how do we manage this? So we need to design that property to accept input from any component. Then we have to mark this with input. With input, we have to mark this. Actually, input is a directive which we have to import at the top. So that means in Angular core, we have an input directive, we have to import it. So we have to just import this input. And we need to use that input directive. But once you write input, automatically it will be imported. Now, once you mark this as input, then let's go to parent component and try here again MSG. This time MSG is available as a property. Into that, we can pass parent message. That means now data from parent is passed to child property. Child property will display inside its component. Now you can see that it is displaying inside it, hello from parent, inside the child component. Actually, that message is present in parent. That parent component sends message to the child component can access. So if a component have to access data from another component, then obviously it should be marked with input. For example, now suppose in the parent here, I am declaring, so public child message is empty. Child message is empty. And the parent component HTML, here I want to display. So this is child message. That means now from child, I need to send some message. From child, I need to send some message into parent. Then in the child component, we are using public message to parent is equal to hello from child. That is the option. Now the point is that this message the child component should send into the parent component. Now the point is how you can do that. So actually here I need to pass it, but we are not accessing parent component in child component, right? We are accessing child component in parent component. So that means if in the child component, we are accessing the parent component, that means app parent component. If we are accessing like this, then it is possible to do that. That means here we are accessing the child message. So message, this property, the property we declared in the parent here, child message, that is not available here. I will mark that property as input. That means here I am marking this as input. I am marking that as input. And we are accessing that here as some child